I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard NOC Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard NOC Life, comics, movies, and TV. Yeah, pop culture with a
Guess who's back?
Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Hi, Keith.
Hey, Dominic. It's Hard NOC Life. We took a couple weeks off.
Yeah, it's Hard NOC Life. Awesome. It's still a Hard NOC Life, whether you take weeks off or not. Ain't that the way?
What has happened in these last couple weeks where we weren't talking about it and sharing our...
Well, there was Memorial Day, and it was notable that, as you mentioned before, Memorial Day didn't feel like a traditional summer movie event as it often does. I'm thinking mainly because things are still backed up from the strike, but also it's one of those weird years. There aren't a ton of Marvel things coming out. There's one, and there wasn't. And one could say that the biggest movie release was Furiosa, wouldn't we?
Which bombed.
Well, yeah, but my question for you is, did it, or is that just relative to our current way of, judging these things?
Well, I mean, yeah, the fact that we don't let movies stay in theaters for more than 2 weeks anymore. Like, there's no such thing as the slow burn box office, long legs chant,
Yeah, and also, I mean, just people are just not going to movies as much writ large anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, this weekend, Bad Boys Ride or Die. Bad Boys for Life was the last one. Bad Boys Ride or Die actually, exceeded box office expectations.
Oh, okay.
And so it's not necessarily that people don't want to go to the movies. I just think that people didn't want to go see a Mad Max prequel or a remake of a TV show from the 80s no one watches.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm just trying to play out this string because I'm trying to think about, the future of entertainment, as I always
Yeah,
am.
no, I mean, I think you're right though. Like we are like there's never been a summer movie season like this, at least, in the post-COVID, not counting COVID, but a summer movie season in which like the movies don't make any sort of cultural resonance at all. Like May, June, we're halfway through June already, and there has not been like the big buzzy everyone's talking about movie.
Yeah. Last year, I guess they kind of manufactured one with Barbie and Oppenheimer, would we say, right? And that was the, the movie theater people trying to maintain their model is how I look at it.
And I mean, I feel like that was even kind of more of an organic. I don't think it was so much that like the theaters were conspiring to make everyone see Barbie.
Oh yeah, no, I don't mean it like that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, because that was organic in the sense that those two movies just happened to come out on the same day, and for for the internet, it just felt like incongruous that you would have a movie like Barbie and a movie like Oppenheimer come out at the same time.
Yeah,
and it's like the juxtaposition is what like people were kind of memeing. And it ultimately became like a cultural phenomenon that you can't really replicate either. You can't just take two random movies and say, everyone go see. Like, it was just the cultural cachet of a Margot Robbie Barbie movie and a Christopher Nolan biopic just happened to like somehow tap into the zeitgeist that you can't really recapture.
Yes. And that was a weird example, but also to the point of like, there's superhero fatigue and there's some pushback against the cultural event always being a Marvel or DC movie or a Star Wars movie, right? So I just think we're sort of seeing how that's playing out, and also movies are way too expensive and all that jazz. So
I mean, it makes it hard when you're a pop culture website and podcast, and you're kind of living. I feel like starting to like enter a post pop culture world.
It's it seems like we had a good run and something is tailing out, right?
Yeah, it does.
But I mean, Marvel Studios would disagree. I mean,
well, right. Well, I mean, I'm sure Deadpool will make $1 gazillion, but
yeah, they come out with some new Deadpool ads. Have you seen any of them?
I have not paid attention to the new Deadpool ads.
Oh, okay. But there's an appearance from Ant-Man. You know, it's clear that they're going to do a lot of trolling and making fun of, you know, Marvel properties past, as
Mhm.
Deadpool's want to do, which I think will be fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing that kind of emerged in our, I guess, 2 week hiatus, or was it just a week? I don't even remember anymore. It felt like 2 weeks.
Mm.
Maybe it was just a week. Whenever the fuck the last time we talked was, they released a trailer for the new Venom movie.
Right, right.
And I forgot there was a new Venom movie coming out.
I completely forgot there was a new Venom movie. Did you know it's also a sequel to the Chicago Bulls documentary?
Yes, it's The Last Dance. And it's
Bro-
about Eddie and Venom, not getting their contract renewed. So
Right.
they're not going to
Yeah.
like
Now, who is that
do another
reference
three-peat.
trolling? I just thought that was really interesting because to me, again, sports slash comics fan, that instantly recalls The Last Dance, the Chicago Bulls documentary.
Yeah.
But also and again, I'm not super familiar with the Venom movies, but there is kind of like a gay buddy subtext that's going on
Right, like the
in that,
Venom
right?
Eddie relationship is kind of romantic. And
Right.
what I thought was interesting about this, the same, I watched the first one, never saw the Carnage one.
Hmm.
And like I watched the trailer. Two things struck me about the trailer. One, for whatever reason, Baron Mordo's in it, and he's not playing Baron Mordo.
Oh yeah,
Chiwetel
he is.
Ejiofor is in a Marvel movie where he's not playing a Marvel character.
Oh, right.
But
Okay.
the second thing,
Whatever happened to that Baron Mordo? Okay,
yeah,
no,
he
more on
he
that later.
became a variant and is now in the
Right,
Sonyverse.
right. More on that
Well,
later.
but
Yeah.
the second thing that kind of like stood out to me in the trailer is that it clearly takes place post No Way Home.
Yeah.
And if you recall, No Way Home, Eddie was brought into the MCU, never interacted with the other Peters, but he was in the MCU and he left behind a little Venom. That was the post-credit sequence.
Yeah, yeah. And the stinger for No Way Home. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but but then he was returned to his universe when Doctor Strange returned everybody.
Right.
And you talk about trolling. I wonder if this is just trolling on Sony's part, because there is a scene in the trailer in which not Baron Mordo captures the piece of symbiote from the bar that Eddie was at in the MCU.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's
Right,
the
right, right.
MCU bar because it's the guy from Ted Lasso as the bartender.
Nice. I'm glad you noticed that. I did
So,
not.
well, and not just me and like half of Reddit noticed it. So that's
Okay.
what I'm following up, because I was like, wait a minute, and
Okay.
did some internet research. So, but and again, Sony has never been like beholden to whatever continuity Kevin Feige creates. I.e., Michael Keaton in the Morbius movie.
Right. Okay. They're not strict.
They're not strict. Sony's just like whatever.
Yeah.
But they were like, well, everyone remembers, I guess, when Eddie was in No Way Home's post-credit sequence. Let's just confuse the fuck out of people and bring not Baron Mordo. They took an actor who's best known in the MCU for playing a Doctor Strange adjacent character
Yes.
to show up and capture the symbiote that was left behind in the MCU. So are they
Yeah.
saying this guy somehow entered the MCU to capture the symbiote? I mean, this is also shit only nerds give a shit about.
No, I mean, but it's something MCU fans traditionally care about. What's your theory? Do you think it's in MCU
I
Central
think my
or
theory is that scene doesn't even happen in the movie. Do you recall the scene from the Morbius trailer in which Morbius walks in front of a Spider-Man poster?
okay.
Do you recall a scene from the a Morbius trailer in which Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes says, "What's up, Doc?"
Yeah, I remember
Two
that.
scenes not in the movie, just two
Okay.
scenes to troll people
Ah.
to come to the Sony. Do you recall the Madam Web trailer in which they showed and implied that the female Spider Women are actually in the movie?
I do recall that, and it hooked me.
I think this is Sony's kind of like way to like perk up the nerd brain
Okay.
to get people into the theater,
Well, you're
and then and
probably
then
not wrong on that point. That's very cynical, but I understand
Well,
your thinking.
I feel like Sony is the most cynical superhero studio right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, but because they're still trying to have the Spider-Man universe without having a Spider-Man universe. It's a weird thing
Yeah.
they're trying to do for just to maintain the rights, as I understand.
Well, and
And
then one other weird like casting choice in Venom 3, aside from the Chiwetel Ejiofor, because again, best known for playing a Doctor Strange character in the MCU.
yeah, but why do you hung up on this? We have those double castings. Gemma
Well,
Chan.
here's a double casting within the same universe.
Okay.
Rice Ifans is also in the Venom trailer.
He is?
Yes,
Oh,
he's the hippie in the van that Eddie's in.
the lizard?
The lizard. Is he Kurt Connors or is he just Rice Ifans playing another guy?
Whoa.
So
Whoa.
yeah, again, I think Sony just don't care.
Well, maybe they don't care. Maybe they're trying to seed everything that's possible. Because my understanding is the future of the Spider-Man movies are in flux. Everything
Yeah.
in the MCU slate is in flux. So we'll have another round of, does Spider-Man belong to Sony
Right, right.
or Disney? And I don't know. Well, I mean, the reason I think that is because talking about box office success or not, Spider-Man No Way Home was a huge moneymaker, by any metric.
Yeah,
So they will want to recapture that somehow,
absolutely.
even um so it's not impossible that this second round of, or whatever, the incoming round of Spider-Man adjacent movies, Venom and Craven, which we also always forget about,
Yeah, that's still
is
coming.
still trying to lead back to Spidey crosses over with the MCU again. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. Perhaps. Who
They want
knows?
they want to leave that open.
or
And
or
I
or they're instating the Amazing Verse and just bring back Andrew Garfield.
right, that would, yeah, there was a call for that, or I don't know, there were people uh advancing that idea, and
Yeah.
I'm cool with that too. Um I know, did you happen to go see any of the Spider-Man movies in the theater? They
Oh no,
have
when they were
are
doing the weekly
they are
Spider-Man.
still, yeah,
Yeah,
they did
I
that,
did
right?
not. I did not.
Yeah. I mean, I was tempted to go see the Amazing Spider-Man 2 again. Again, in the internet way, I actually watched a video of someone watching it in the theater, which is just like the most
That's the most 2024 thing ever.
right. I didn't even go to the theater. I watched like a video of someone watching it. And anyway, the point is, I was, and I've always been in the camp of I love that ending of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Not everyone does. And it was like there were people applauding. There were people like, yeah, that hinted at the Amazing Spider-Man 3, which still doesn't exist, but was you know, in the Mark Webb verse before the whole Tom Holland thing existed, before anyone even know who Tom Holland was. So,
Right.
a period that we've discussed in this on this podcast before. But anyway, my only point is, yeah, all those things I think are in flux. Um,
No, I agree, and I think that like to your point earlier about is superhero fatigue real or not? I think who knows, who's to say, but I do think people are not as enamored. Like it's not the automatic thing that it was for like 15 years.
sure.
That just because you have a superhero comic book, Marvel, DC, whatever movie, guaranteed box office.
Sure.
Deadpool, I think Deadpool Wolverine will make money just because there's some cachet to those two as film franchises. People want to see Hugh Jackman
Yeah.
squeeze back into the tights one last time, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or the tights for the first time, I guess, as it were,
Yeah.
that film.
Oh
But
no.
I think your mileage may vary when it comes to like the other superhero movies that are on the way. Like we'll see. And I'm excited for Superman. Is that going to make money next year? Who knows? Fantastic
Yeah.
Four. We've gone through that twice now. Will this third time be the charm? Who
Yeah,
knows?
that's
I
an
think that's
interesting
still
one.
like a
Well, I think I
unanswered
think they have
question.
to go back to playing it safe in a bit. I was thinking about this in terms of, okay, I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine, yes, will be the big summer movie, and I say that with, confidence because people who don't like comic books like the Deadpool movies.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's accessible. It's Ryan Reynolds being funny and guns.
X-Men are
And
having a moment right now too.
exactly. And a lot of people who aren't hardcore Marvel heads like Wolverine. So that's safe. As opposed to Wonder Man.
Right.
Supposedly they're still making a Wonder Man show, right? And that's where my brain goes, yeah, that Marvel is too much because actual Wonder Man is only for comic books people. No one is craving a Wonder Man movie, actually. That's just you like crossing off a list, right? So
Yeah.
there is an argument to just make, even though people complain about it, there's an argument to just make the Spider-Man movie over and over again because he's the one who people really know. I think Wonder Man could be great, but I'm saying no one's clamoring for that character in a fantasy kind of way.
Yeah, and I think like the superhero, like the automatic, box office nature of the superhero film, because again, people would point to the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy,
Right,
super obscure, became a mega franchise on the, they were good movies, but also on the basis that like people, like there was an instant MCU connection, so that people will want to go see those films, right? Like
right.
there isn't that anymore. Like the dwindling returns of like the last few MCU movies have shown that MCU itself, Marvel Studios itself, is not the guarantor that it used to be. And
Right.
and I also think, honestly, part of this, and this, the main topic we'll get into is about the recent Star Wars show that just debuted. But I do think that, like, for me at least, I'm tired of like just the automatic fan discourse about everything.
Yeah, sure.
Again,
Okay.
as a guy who runs a website where like fan discourse is the point, and I'm like, you know what, we need less of fan discourse. But
Well,
what I mean is the bad
what
faith
do you
fan
mean?
discourse.
The what?
The bad faith fan discourse. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But like,
Yeah.
we go through it's the same cycle of like, and it's what's, you know infiltrated our politics too. It's like you go through the cycle of dealing with the, like, people complaining about it's too woke, and then people complaining about the people who complain about it's too woke,
Yeah.
and then you can't have the conversation about was it good or not. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it's all, you're just dealing with all the politics of it, which again, the Nerds of Color is all about the intersection of race and politics in pop culture. I'm not saying we should just, just watch it and enjoy it. I'm not saying that either. I'm saying, like, but it's just it's exhausting to like deal with, like, the angry bros who hate the fact there are people of color and women in anything.
Right.
But I also hate that, like, we even have to acknowledge that. Why can't, or, and this was the discourse around Star Wars for like ever since Force Awakens and Last Jedi, right? That like if you do have some qualms with like the story, you can't really talk about that without, and this is not me necessarily leading into like I have some issues with the Acolyte, but I didn't love the Acolyte. I mean,
Mm.
and I don't know, it's you know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. No, I mean, again, all that is well taken. And yes, it's a never-ending battle. That's why
Yeah,
they say it's a never-ending battle for truth or justice. But yes,
yeah,
it happens every single time. And it does remove our ability to enjoy and think about things in, the fan or even the film critic kind of way.
right.
And so in regards to the Acolyte, what's your sense of what the discourse was like, even though I know you're tired of it?
Well, yeah, I mean, no, it's
You're
it's what it always is. It's like there's no white people in it, which, whatever. I don't give a shit. Like
hmm.
it's the same like angry YouTubers
Yeah.
who review bomb Marvels and, Last
Yeah.
Jedi, right? Like it's like they see black people and women, and they they can't handle it. There's not enough white people in Star Wars. And again, like that's like it's not, to me, that's not even worth
Right.
talking about. Like the people who are so upset with, the Marvels, or so upset with the Acolyte just because, you have women and people of color in the lead. That's not even like, I feel like I'm so far beyond. I don't even celebrate it anymore. Maybe that's like,
Mm.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that Lee Jung Jae is the lead, and Amanda Stenberg are the leads of the Acolyte.
Yeah.
But that's not enough for me to really have enjoyed the first 2 episodes that much.
Yeah, no, I get it. And yeah, it's a hard place to be. Um, I will say like the the initial ads for the Acolyte did seem to be selling that point that it was more culturally diverse than the average Star Wars thing. And I appreciate that. And the people who don't appreciate that had their predictable,
Yeah.
super aggravated reaction to it. So there's some kind of marketing, game within a game going on there. But then, of course, yes, we turn to the actual show, which is the thing we should be considering. We
Yeah,
not
and
not
I'm not
just
hate, like I want to also preface like I didn't hate it. You know what I mean? Like it was fine. And I feel like this is where I am on most IP at the moment. Like nothing has like offended me the way that
Mhm.
like I don't know Transformers 2 did.
uh yes.
What was the second one? The Revenge of the Fallen. That movie offended me.
Uh yeah, well I you mean uh I'm that way about all the Bayformers universe, but
Well, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the first one
But
was okay,
but the
like
second one was
the
egregiously
second one was so
accidental.
bad I went back. It retroactively made me hate the first one.
Okay, got it.
You know what I'm saying? Like was like that. Like none of the films and shows that have come out. You know, when we were talking about Secret Invasion or She-Hulk, like those were fine. Like I didn't hate them. I didn't love them. You know what I mean? Like there hasn't been something where I was like absolutely over the moon for in the last couple years.
Sure.
I don't
And
think. Maybe there
yeah.
was and I just forgot. And then that's not good either.
Well, well, have you enjoyed anything at all in life recently? Is this like a thing
Well,
that
I
needs
decided to
therapy?
really follow the Chicago Cubs this baseball season, and that has turned out to be a bad choice.
So okay, so the,
I
the
don't like
comfort
either
food is not that
Jason Tatum
comforting.
or Luka Doncic, so I have no rooting interest in the NBA Finals.
Man, Keith, your life just sucks.
It does. Oh no, when I wasn't going to mention this, but it's kind of tangentially related since we share a name. But I am excited that the Chicago Bears were named to be the Hard Knock football team on
Oh, oh,
HBO
oh,
this
oh,
year.
they are. They're
Yeah,
gonna do that? Yeah, they should. They
that's
have
super excited.
yeah, because they have tons of drama. It'll be great. It'll be a
Yeah.
great season. Uh,
Maybe
and
we'll rebrand this podcast to just follow that show.
well,
We
I'd
don't have to
like if we
change the name
could
of the podcast.
I right, and then it would actually make sense. But I'd like if we could do some kind of parallel,
Yeah,
also
I guess.
following whatever nerd stuff's going on, because there always seem to be parallels. Because again, and I just wrote this whole novel about this. Literally, the parallels of sports fandom and nerd comics fandoms. They're more alike than they're different,
Well, and
as
you
a
know, I mean,
presidential candidate might say.
well, one thing, and I know we touched on it already, but like, you know, the movie that's number one this weekend, Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Mm-hmm.
The directors, Falan Adil,
Mm-hmm.
were the directors of Batgirl,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And like, they have two number one box office hits under their belt, but had their Batgirl movie shelved because of one guy, David Zaslav, who owns Warner Brothers,
Mm-hmm.
is a corporate like hack who just is all about tax breaks. Shelved a fully finished superhero movie, which I think just based off of like what they've done with Bad Boys could have been awesome. Like think about it, like you have a Batman movie, a Batman adjacent movie directed by one of the hottest director teams in like the business right now, got
Mm-hmm.
shelved for tax breaks. And this is relevant because I just mentioned the NBA Finals. David Zaslav is also the reason TNT is going to give up the NBA next year because
Ah.
Discovery Warner Brothers was like, yeah, we don't really want to pay up for like basketball anymore.
So that went through
I
there?
it's probably 99% sure that NBC is going to take over from TNT.
Okay.
But that's
Huh.
related because again, it goes back to David Zaslav's like, you know,
Yes, his
idiocy.
disagreement with us about everything on what is entertaining and what is not. Yes, still want to see that Batgirl movie. Yes, that was a number one movie by a hot directing team. What was the other movie they did, by the way?
The other Bad Boys movie, Bad Boys for
The other
Life.
Bad Boys movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a Bad
And they
Boys-ish
did the Ms.
Batgirl movie.
Marvel.
I
They
totally
did
want
the
to see
Ms.
it.
Marvel. They directed a bunch of the Ms.
That's
Marvel episodes.
right. So again, back
Yeah,
to
they
I
got all
want
the bona fides and yet David Zaslav was like, yeah, but
We
I
have
could
to
make more money in a tax break.
we have to steal that Batgirl movie out of a vault. I mean, that's
There
that's
should be a
the
movie about that.
that's the actual real life superhero mission that needs to happen. It's
I
on
don't,
somebody's hard drive. It needs to be found.
that's the meta Deadpool movie I want to see.
Yeah, Deadpool, James Bond, somebody, some Jack Reacher, I don't give a shit. Someone go find it.
So anyway, but that takes us all the way back around to the Acolyte,
Okay.
and I, again, tell like 8-year-old me you're gonna get to a point where there's so much Star Wars that you're not gonna give a shit about half of it, and I'll be like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
There can never be enough Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm here to say maybe there's enough Star Wars.
Well, okay, now, no, Keith, let's not like here.
Do we
I
need
can
more Star Wars?
I can indulge your phase of get off my lawn-ness to a point, but I don't want you to go over the ledge if I make mixed
what I'm doing?
metaphors. You're
So what did you think of the Acolyte?
it wouldn't it's when you start to say things like enough that gets a little bit
Sure, right. I mean, I'm gonna watch the next episode.
No more nerd movies because I'm grumpy today. That to me is a bad faith argument. I understand what you're saying. To me, yeah, it's just as simple as it's commenting that there's too much is different from saying there's not. Anyway, word choice. They're in an area they haven't explored before, the High Republic.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the first 2 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
didn't totally follow it. Someone who's read the High Republic stuff would have more like Easter eggs to grab onto. But I thought it was okay. I wanted to be more like Andor than it was.
Yeah. Well, right. There's a show I fell in love with.
Yeah.
Let me take that back. Andor was great. And if we had more Star Wars like Andor, yeah, I would keep,
because it was really well written. There was something
well written,
like
well shot, well directed.
Yeah. And the Acolyte is as I'm trying to sum up my feelings. I guess I don't have don't really have a hold on it yet because I don't exactly know what's going on.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this as a fellow Asian American nerd.
Okay.
And this is no shot at Lee Jung Jae. It's probably more of a shot at the writer of the show, Leslie Headland. And which I, again, anyone criticizing her just because she's an out gay writer is stupid. This is not but my one beef with her is that had you cast, let's say, Hiroyuki Sanada as the Jedi Master, would his name be Jedi Master Kyoto? If, say, you cast Tony Leung as the Jedi Master, would his name have been Jedi Master Hong Kong? I say this because the name of Lee Jung Jae's character is Jedi Master Soul.
Oh, it is.
I couldn't get over that.
I didn't even think about that. Well, okay.
Jedi Master Tokyo.
Look, if you really want to, okay, this brings me back to one of my favorite rants, which is about the East Asian naming stuff in Star Wars.
Right,
okay,
he's Asian, right?
Well, because at one point I like to say, okay, the Star Wars borrows all its cool naming stuff from East Asian language parts and some Middle Eastern, right? We that's a known thing. Han Solo,
Obi-Wan,
Kylo Ren, Obi-Wan. This is one of the oldest tricks in Star Wars playbook. And my complaint used to be they always, whenever they have that rare Asian person, they gave them the uncool name that wasn't related to Asian stuff because I thought they were trying to not be so obvious about it.
Right.
Remember Admiral Statura? He
Yes.
was the only guy who wasn't named, to your point, Admiral Shanghai or Admiral ER San or something like that. Yeah, because that would have been perceived as
that
would have, or yeah, that would have been ripping off the Band-Aid on something they didn't want to expose. So I don't know if I'm playing devil's advocate or not, but the point is they came around to that one by naming the Korean Jedi Soul, and you're not happy about it, and that's fine.
I'm not happy. I just thought it was funny that like you cast a Korean guy and you call him Soul. And I just wondered if you cast a Japanese guy, would his name be Tokyo? That's
the problem they were trying to avoid this whole time by giving Jessica Henwick does not have an Asianish name. What's her name in Star
Des
Wars?
Tava.
Yeah, well, semi, but my
Yeah,
point is,
even like Kelly Marie Tran, Rose Tico is like, does that it sounds Filipino maybe?
yeah. No, I mean that is not without its phonemes Asian related, but anyway, it was a small point, but the absolutely true point is Star Wars is based on drawing from, well, lots of cultures, but especially East Asian culture and movie culture, the Akira Kurosawa and all that. And so it was funny, like when I was reading reviews of the Acolyte, you know, some of the talking one of the talking points was, and our first Asian Jedi Master. And to me, that was just funny things. Like, well, yeah, he's the first Jedi Master who looks phenotypically Asian, but let's be real, all the Jedi Masters have been Asian
Yeah.
since the beginning of Jedis, just subtextually, and they didn't have Asian faces. So it's kind of funny for that to happen, and some would say that's the victory we've been
I guess so. I mean, I did write a
searching
post
for.
like damn near 10 years ago, like, here are all the Asians in Star Wars. And now that we have like, a whole bunch of Asians in Star Wars, I'm complaining. So you're right.
Right, and you were envisioning the alternate universe where Toshiro Mifune was in the first Star Wars.
You're right, exactly.
And this is kind of like that.
Right.
They actually got the
The
Asian
hot
movie
Asian
star.
actor to
Right.
play yeah.
Now, I thought your objection would be, and this is my slight beef with it, is they could have gotten an Asian American guy. They wanted the hot Asian guy
Right.
who,
Squid Game piece.
yeah, who, to be fair, like he had to learn
Well,
English for the role, right?
let
Anyway.
me push back a little bit, because I will say I lit up in episode 2 when Manny Jacinto shows up.
Yeah.
And I feel like although he's technically not American because he's from Canada, he is to me the most interesting character on the show, and like the most personality on the show. And I think this is where
Okay, right on.
I have beef with the Acolyte, and it's not the fault of any of the actors. I think this was also my beef with the prequels. Like it's the dialogue and it's on purpose. It's so stiff and so like, just Jedi suck, I think is the overarching theme
Your
of Star
thesis?
Wars in general.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because that was the theme of The Last Jedi, right? Like Luke saying maybe the Jedi weren't so great.
Yeah, sort of debunking their whole thing. Yeah, go
Right.
on.
Because the prequels was kind of about, Jedi not awesome.
Yeah, okay.
you
Okay.
know and so like kind of living in like the High Republic, and I've like, you've never read a High Republic book. We wanted to have Brittany back. She's been on vacation in Greece. She is the High Republic expert on the
Well,
podcast.
good for her. Yes, she would be, but we'll consult her at the
We'll
right
consult her
time.
later, but like, and there are people who love that shtick. To me, I don't love hanging out with Jedi.
Yeah,
I think. And so when Manny shows up in episode 2, although I have a theory about him from episode 1.
Okay.
And I mean episodes of the Acolyte, not the. It's confusing when you say episode 1 and 2 in Star Wars.
Yeah. Okay.
That's when the show kind of gets some life for me.
Yeah.
Some personality, some verve. And we'll see where his character goes and what he does. And Manny Jacinto's like, he's great in everything.
Yeah,
even when he's in the background of Top Gun, he's great. Not doing anything, he's great. So, and he is an Asian American guy that's got some like coolness to him.
Yes.
But again, we'll see what they do with him.
In another universe, he would be the lead, but let's not. Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't want to beat on that point. Solo's fine. Jedi Master Solo's fine. There is your thing about the Jedi sucking. Like my my understanding of the basic concept of the High Republic period, and again, this is just hearing about it from a guy in the bar who follows is the essential feeling is High Republic things are going pretty nicely, but something is brewing underneath.
Right.
It's as opposed to the setup of the original movies, the Empire is in place and we're following the rebellion, which is in progress.
Yeah.
This is about, Avalon, the time of everything's going great.
Closer to the prequels, because that's the hope. The prequels, Jedis are at their peak. They had no idea the Sith were, kind of, under their noses the entire time, and all the machinations of the prequel trilogy was
Yeah,
at the point where like the because again, like if you go back to like 9-year-old Dominic, and say in 20 years there's going to be movies where there's like 100 Jedi with lightsabers fighting a bunch of robots, and
that's
you'd be like,
right.
cool. And there was, and it was not cool.
Yeah, I would have. Yes, it was. That was the feeling when those prequels came out. That was like a dream fulfilled. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, at the moment, whether or not, I mean, I'm not saying I was like it was awesome at the moment, but the
Mhm.
concept of that, as you say, was a dream fulfilled to 9-year-old to 9-year-old me. And you know what? That big arena fight in Attack of the Clones is my favorite part of Attack of the Clones. I'm I'm not saying it was like not well executed at all. I mean, come on, they've got so many lightsabers, and that whole
So
thing
many.
with chopping off Jango's head, like that was well executed,
Yeah.
so to
Literally.
speak.
Literally
Yeah.
well executed.
But I don't know if we're here to relitigate that exact
No, no, no.
thing.
And
But
again, I've made my peace. I don't think it's even worth bashing the prequels anymore, because
yeah,
we just celebrated the 25th anniversary of episode 1,
yeah.
which was, I don't know if you caught this. There was a live reading of the episode 1 script,
Oh my God. Sorry,
uh
go on.
held by a bunch of comedians. They think the podcast, I think it's Star Wars Minute, where they like discuss Star Wars minute by minute. It's a great podcast,
Okay.
but they got a bunch of actors and comedians to do a live reading of the script of episode 1, and I've only gotten halfway through the video on YouTube, but it's amazing. And
That's
my
funny.
favorite part of the live reading, Tony Hale, for example, plays Qui-Gon Jinn, but Diana Leon Inosanto is playing Emperor Palpatine
Oh, great.
in it as well. But the
Awesome.
best part is they get these two comedians to do the Nemoidians,
Uh,
but they do the Nemoidians with like uh Dukes of Hazzard Boss Hog
nice.
accents
Nice.
instead of like the offensive Asian accent.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. That's my favorite part.
Revenge.
It's the best part.
That's great. Yeah.
Like, because
And
like, what's he doing down there? Instead of like, what's going on down there? Like, it's so great. It's the
see,
best thing.
time heals, and
Yeah.
sometimes a better idea emerges. And that's great. Yeah, I was about to be like throw up in my mouth a little bit because it was like, oh, the live reading of the table reading of the episode 1 script. That's not my initial idea of a good time.
Yeah.
But if it was done for comedy, I can see how that would be delightful.
Yeah. No, I will share the link in
Unfortunately.
the
Sorry.
description. I think you'll get a kick out of it.
Excellent. Well, okay. But
But
okay,
so back to
so
the Acolyte.
that's like the prequel to the prequels.
Right. Literally.
So they're really in a new area here. And I like the lead actor a lot. I'm blanking on her name, but
Amanda Stenberg.
yeah, yeah. Um and you know, I want to like the murder mystery vibe of it. I'm not sure I
Yeah, I think that's
like
where
it yet.
it lost me on that. Like, I feel like I don't care. I don't care why these Jedi are getting killed, and I don't care that uh OSHA slash May is doing it because of some revenge plot.
But
Like,
why don't you care, Harold with the purple
I
crayon?
think so far I don't care. Like the story has not made me care. What I care more about, again, it goes back to the Manny Jacinto character. I
It all
care
goes
more
back to
about the
Manny.
fact, no, that what he represents in the show
Hmm.
is that he's the cynical. I don't know why are these Jedi so like on their higher on their own supply,
Right, right. Okay.
which I think is the more interesting entry
Yeah.
into the show.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because if this
Oh,
show is about like the rise of the Sith, ultimately, that I think, and how do we get to a point where, to your point earlier about episode 2, Attack of the Clones, again, we have to differentiate what we mean by Attack of the Clones, where you have 100,000 Jedi all swinging their lightsabers, and in less than 20 years, people don't even believe they exist.
yeah.
How do we get that far? Like, because Han Solo's like, I've never been anywhere, or I believe anything where you have some wizard, right? But like,
Yeah.
not 20 years ago, they were running around with lightsabers. So like,
Yeah.
what could have happened in those intervening years? And I think what Manny Jacinto's character kind of represents, even though this is 100 years prior, is that there is a way to be like, not everyone is super impressed with the Jedi. And I think
Mm.
what I also don't like and this was my issue with the prequels. I feel like Jedi's as cops was always the weird
Mm,
like interpretation. Like Jedi's were knights, and you base it off
mm,
of like samurai and knight, like samurai culture, or like medieval Knights of the Round Table, like that.
hmm.
They weren't cops.
You mean because they had so much bureaucratic structure and
Yeah,
were
and even
like,
this like show, like you said, it's more of a detective murder mystery.
mm,
But Lee Jung Jae is more like a lead detective, and X-23 is his like sidekick. You know what I mean?
right, right.
It's not. I don't know. I just feel
Ah,
like
good old X-23.
when Daphne Keene is like, "Stop in the name of the Republic, you're under arrest." I'm like, do
Yeah.
Jedi talk like that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The more they got, part of the demystification was when they used to be just like, wandering, you know, like Lone Wolf and Cub, just like
Yeah,
wandering forces, and just intervening when necessary. When you pull back to their like organization that like sends people out to, keep the peace slash shut up the kids in this apartment,
yeah,
that's where it gets a little cop-like and
right.
bureaucratic annoying. Um, but also, well, okay. I don't know if they'll go there, but
Hmm.
they could investigate the part of the story where this is why the Jedi actually aren't so cool. And to some people, that's an interesting story. You seem to be saying like the Jedi have been demystified enough that it's no longer even like a pleasure to imagine the ideal of the Jedi, the stoic figure that Alec Guinness once cut, and all that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I think so. I mean, to me, that's what was exciting about the Last Jedi,
Hmm.
when Luke was like, maybe the Jedi should die, and then actually deciding no, they shouldn't die. They should be reborn in a new way.
Yeah,
Because that was the
that's
message of the Last Jedi, and then Rise of Skywalker was like, nope,
right,
we're just
right,
gonna
yeah.
retread, But
No, no, you're right. That's good shit. I mean,
that
that's like
aside, right, right. I think kind of they're doubling down on like Jedi are bureaucratic dorks who who think they're cops.
right.
Is just to me is less interesting. So like I think when you have a character like Manny Jacinto, I forget his name in the show. That's why I keep calling him. I could just call him like Jason
We,
Mendoza.
we yes, we've reached the point of stop being able to remember the names of Star Wars characters too. That's an important dividing line
I wish they just
where
called him Bortles. That would have been an awesome
that would have been an excellent Star
name,
Wars
Star
name.
Wars name that had also reference to Good Place.
There should be a
But
Darth Bortles. And but
Darth
anyway.
Bortle, oh, I want him to throw a Molotov cocktail so bad. Anyway, so here, let me
Yeah.
my pet theory, um, which I think is actually kind of obvious based on the marketing in the trailers. Honestly,
Uh-huh.
I think he's the Sith guy in the mask.
I sure hope so.
I mean, it's
That
almost it's
that'd be
almost like too
rad.
obvious that he's not. He's not. It's like the Yoda,
Right.
bait and switch, where like, oh, he's just a bum. No, he's the Jedi Master that they're or not the Jedi Master, the Sith Master that they're listening to. The
And
guy on the
and
rock at the end with the red lightsaber.
yes, who's with the deep voice was like, we
Yeah.
will, the
That
Jedi
deep
will
voice
die.
just sounds too much like Manny Jacinto to me to be like, it's not him.
That's awesome. Yeah. So in that formulation, then would be the final confrontation be like the Asian Jedi Master versus the Asian Canadian guy.
Sith Master. Yeah.
Well, geez.
Now it's the best show ever.
18-year-old Dominic was writing shit requesting that in college essays.
Yeah. And
That
we
was
might get it with the act. I just hope it becomes a little bit more interesting between now and that point.
Yeah, and I also want to say I want to take the more optimistic viewpoint, which is that I think they will explore that stuff, and I think the split personality problem of the main characters is engaging to me. I agree. I'm not like super like hooked into it yet, but there are a
Mhm.
lot of things at play which could be cool. I do think it's yeah, I do think it feels unfocused in a
Mhm.
couple ways. Um, and I wonder if we're just resistant to new characters. Like if they had an old iconic character show up, would that
No,
give
I
us
honestly would
something
dislike
to
that
latch
more.
on to?
I
Yeah.
know I dislike because I dislike when they do that in The Mandalorian.
Hmm.
Like I think what disproves that is that the first season of The Mandalorian was its best season because it was like there are no connections to other lore in Star Wars.
Sure, sure.
And then when it started to get oh, here's Ahsoka and here's Bo-Katan and
Yeah,
here's Luke Skywalker. You're
yeah,
kind of like, uh,
yeah,
the universe feels too small now,
yeah.
right? But with I mean, I will say, like, I was kind of like, I perked up a little bit with like, oh, there's a Wookiee Jedi. That might be cool.
That part is cool.
But that might not be cool too. Like, we'll see. I want to see how he pans
Mm.
out next episode.
Yeah. Also, it's the question, like, is it cool enough? You know, I mean, like, we kind
Yeah.
of they're
How much cool
uh
do you need ultimately?
well, that's where I get into the enough part. Um, what would it take for this Star Wars to make make us happy, because that's what I think of first selfishly. Like, is there an action set piece cool enough? Is there a revelation surprising enough? Probably not. We've had all of them. Um, I like, could you if you introduced another starfighter with a letter in front of it, I'd probably be like, yeah,
You know
like
what I think?
I'm into that.
Maybe my problem with Star Wars, and I just realized it just now talking to you. I don't like Jedi.
You've never liked Jedi?
I maybe not, because I was just
Whoa.
thinking, what two recent Star Wars properties do I absolutely adore? And it was, like I just said, the first season of Mandalorian and Andor. And what do
Uh-huh.
those two things have in common? Not a Jedi in sight.
Well, this is a weird therapeutic epiphany to have at this moment, but you're like, wait, even in okay.
And even in the original trilogy, there were really no Jedi. Like, the Jedi was a
Well,
myth.
they've been hunted almost extinction, and
That's why
there was
that's
just the
why the
one.
final one is called Return, the Jedi Return.
Yes, okay. You have hit on something here. They
And the
get
first two Star Wars are also Jedi-less, technically.
yeah. They do start to they have started to overload it on the Jedi thing.
Yeah,
Much like in the Spider-Verse, now there's like way too many of them.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
they're not special.
right.
Now, going back to the prequels for a second, did you like the part in Phantom Menace when there was suddenly really cool lightsaber battling at the end? I
Yeah, I
did.
did like that. I did like Obi-Wan Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul. That's probably my favorite thing about
Yeah, that
episode
was
one.
a moment we all shared as Star Wars fans. We were like, oh, there's more Jedi. They're not as rare anymore. Oh, and they actually do, like, really cool looking choreographed stage combat as opposed to,
But
what they
but
did
then
in
what
Britain.
what I will say too though is that as much as I like that lightsaber fight, my favorite there was no emotional content behind it, right? Like, ultimately,
No, there was emotional
the
content
best
behind
well
it,
no, let me get to it.
but
The best part of that fight is when Qui-Gon dies, and like, my favorite part was Obi-Wan, the no, and then he comes in
yeah.
and they do that awesome, like,
Oh, yeah.
exchange before he slices Maul in half. That was the, like, before that it was just a bunch of fancy swinging around,
Yes, 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 sure.
which is my problem with the fight at the end of Revenge of the Sith, because that should be the
Mhm.
most emotional fight, and to me it's not. They're
Right.
just
Hmm.
swinging their lightsabers around.
Right. No, you're right. That's heavy.
Like
Yes.
Vader Luke
Mhm.
in Empire, that's emotional content, right?
Absolutely.
Vader Luke in Return, that's my favorite lightsaber duel,
Yeah.
is Return of the Jedi.
No, you're right. Absolutely. And that's, yeah. And this is aside from, uh, how intricate the choreography is. This is about staging with emotional stakes, which they do effectively at the end of Return of the Jedi and at the end of the Phantom Menace battle. And so, I'm just trying to unpack this
Yeah. Well,
Jedi
why do
problem.
I hate the Jedi? Yeah, I feel like I
Why?
identify
Maybe
with this.
you're the secret Sith.
Only two.
No, right, right.
That's a
No,
dumb rule, by the way. Only two Sith.
I
Why?
think they're gonna unpack why that rule exists. And I think that's the lore thing from the extended universe and the books
Yeah.
that they're gonna actually get into in this series, which again is just a technical thing that it's not like I'm gonna go, yay. It's like sort of a fan service Easter egg thing to align the canon.
What
It's
and I think that's the other thing too, that, like, maybe again, here's me get off my lawn. My problem with the cinematic universe and continuity is that there are people whose lives, like, their whole lives are predicated on, like, unpacking everything anyone's ever said.
well,
And
yeah.
I feel like that's how we got to the, like, there can only be two Sith, because I don't think in Phantom Menace when Yoda says only two there are, a master and apprentice. I don't think he literally meant only two. I think like
No, he
he
literally
meant
meant
figuratively. There's always a master, and if there's a master Sith somewhere, there must also be an apprentice, or vice versa. It doesn't mean there can never be more than two Sith.
well,
Why
no,
are they
dude.
so dangerous if there's only two of them?
There's a reason behind that. There is a whole reason in the story behind that.
I
You don't
don't buy it.
happen to know it, but there is a big story why that
Well, there's
is.
a whole comic book history. It's because like the Sith are so like drawn to power that there can never be more than two.
Yeah, because they'd always be killing the
They're
other
always
one.
killing each other.
So
Right?
they have this sort of minimally staffed arrangement by which
Which they also
um
complicate with the whole Sith Inquisitors bullshit because it's like, okay, these aren't really Sith, even though
yeah,
they have
they're
red
right.
lightsabers and
That makes it iffy. They were trying to have it both ways there.
yeah.
I get you. But my point is there is a story behind that, and whether it's your favorite Star Wars lore or not, it is a story that they'll probably engage in Acolyte to address their two Sith things.
Yeah.
And whether it makes you
Am I
personally
just the
happy
ultimate
for them.
hater? I feel like I'm just a hater.
Well, you're leaning that way, Keith, and as your friend, I want to express concern
Oh
because
no.
we used to do these podcasts with joy and excitements about nerdy things like this question of who's going to have which color lightsaber.
Mm.
And well, there was a whole pandemic and the world is ending. I'll give you that. But
It's hard to give a shit.
but I'm the least optimistic guy in the world. I'm a depressed dork, but I want to take the posture of someone who can be optimistic about some of these things so we can talk them through in public. The point, well, I mean, sorry, my short answer is if your take on everything is I hate it, yes, that doesn't give us a lot to go on as a podcast format. We could just retitle the podcast I hate it. And
Yeah. Well, instead of what's nerd pop, like what do you absolutely hate this week in the world?
but I'm trying to meet you halfway in the sense of yes, we're having a moment when we're kind of not as enthused about these things, and why is that? But if you're not going to respond and it just comes back to you hate it, well, I mean, I'll see you next Monday.
Yeah, I guess so.
No.
Well, I'll throw it out there to like whoever's listening. If you guys are still listening, is Keith just being a hater? Sound off in the comments on either YouTube or Apple
I mean,
Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this right now.
I mean, we realize, you're a sports fan and a dad, and you have other things that, drawing your attention in life. But one wants to, when I get into trips where I hate everything, but then it's like, you explore within yourself to find the things which still bring you joy or still, and, try to rediscover those things in some way.
Excellent
I'm not saying
segue.
I'm not going to say it's going to happen with Acolyte, but that's my process.
Well, that's an excellent segue because there are two things that did fill me with a lot of joy this week.
All right.
And I guess this is our way to get into nerd popping. But one, Atarashi Gakko just released a new album. It's their first like full-length album in a while. They're the Japanese pop group that they're like blowing up because they were like headlining Coachella recently.
Yeah.
Now they're
Yeah.
touring Europe. They're on the 88 Rising label, so like
Yeah.
they just released a new album called AG Calling. It's phenomenal. It's like it took Dark Matter off my constant
Okay.
rotation.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
check out AG Calling. And the other thing, I'm late on this, but I finally started Three Body Problem on Netflix.
Mm.
And I'm halfway through, and I know that this is the quote unquote whitewashed version of the book because they take parts of it out of China and into like London and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like it. I like Benedict Wong.
Mm-hmm.
He's great in it. And so far so good. I'm only halfway through. I'm not super familiar with the books. I'm aware of the Lu Xixin books, but I'm curious to like finish this and then watch the Chinese version that's on I think Prime Video.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's other. Yeah, no, me also, I haven't watched it, and yeah, but it is a Chinese originated science fiction story, and I haven't watched it, but
Have you read the novels?
I'm glad you liked it. No, it's on my shelf.
Yeah.
I will one of these days. Benedict Wong is a G. He's big.
Yeah, he's great.
I do like Benedict
awesome.
Wong. He's keeping it real.
Again, I'm gonna be a hater. He's so much better in this than he is in the Doctor Strange movies. Like he's such a waste in the Marvel universe.
It's not a waste.
They don't use him to his full.
They could use him more. Yes.
Like
yeah,
he's
the
got
Sorcerer
so
Supreme.
much charisma and like when the few moments he's in MCU shit, like he's so charismatic.
Yeah.
Like he should be one of the lead, follow that dude for the rest of the MCU. You know what I mean? Like he's so good in this show.
I agree with you.
That,
Benedict Wong has Riz. I think that's what
yeah,
the kids say.
that's what the kids say.
Um, and he's the Sorcerer Supreme. And he could have solved that whole Thanos problem in a minute with the cutting off the hand thing. But whatever, we're not here to relitigate that either.
And he's a karaoke guy, so he's up your alley.
And he's a karaoke guy. Yes, a wonderful scene in maybe the most wonderful stinger in the last phase of Marvel movies.
Wong
for the
should be the
karaoke
leader
hits.
of the Avengers.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen. I don't know if that's even happened in the comics. I don't know how I don't know if there's been like a big Wong comic in
No, well, I mean, I think
But-
that's one
but-
thing Marvel Studios, the MCU.
I bet they did in a What If, but
Well, that's the coolest thing about the MCU there is that they really did rehab that character. Because Wong in the comics was just like the racist ward that
Yeah, it was
sidekick stereotype.
he was very much a sidekick. I don't think he's that way these days.
Not
But
anymore.
classically,
But I think, but
classic
that's
comics, yes.
influenced by
Yeah,
the movie stuff.
yeah.
Before the movies, no one gave two shits about Wong. And I think that's the one, like a character to be rehabbed. That's how you do it. And now, like you said, he's the Sorcerer Supreme in the movies. I don't know what he is in the comics today, but like you could conceive, like if you gave Greg Pak do a Wong book, he'd make it awesome.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but the interest in that character is solely due to Benedict Wong and the way he's portrayed in the movies.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure about that, but I take your
I
argument.
think so. I don't think
Okay.
anyone, like I don't think you can point to any like classic Wong
I'd just
thing
say that because I don't read enough
pre-2016.
Doctor Strange comics to say that comprehensively, and there's also if there's a story that's been possible, Marvel has probably done it once in the comics. I'm not saying it was anyway, but the point is, yes, that theory stands, and Benedict Wong is great, and he in some weird universe he could be head of the next Avengers movies. Now, will we make up that distance in allowing Asian male representation in big movies before 3 years from now? It doesn't. There are signs pointing at one outcome and signs pointing the other way. Probably not, but it's something we could hope for.
Yeah.
If we hope about anything.
So what's bringing you hope and joy in the nerd pop world?
Well, speaking of comic books, I'll mention that the Secret Six Omnibus is coming out this week, so there's mention it'll be available for purchase, I think tomorrow on Tuesday, and it's a collection of the Secret Six comics, mainly by Gail Simone and Nicola Scott, and it's one of those. Do you have any of the omnibuses? I like the omnibus format.
I don't have any, but I mean, I used to work at Diamond. I have seen them up close. They are pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean they're like a Bible,
Yeah.
and they're for the completist kind of urge,
Yep.
They're usually for like you want to read the whole thing, and that's a good service to have.
I mean, there's a Kickstarter that's live right now where Skybound is compendiuming. I just turned it into a verb. All of the
Okay.
Larry Hama G.I. Joe comics.
Yeah, and that would be crazy. That they couldn't fit into one volume though, too.
Well,
There's
it's
a
like
practical
it's like
limit,
3 or
right?
4 volumes, but it's 3 Bible-sized volumes.
Right. I mean, that's the funny
entire
thing about the
Marvel
completist
run.
thing is like there are some that could practically be collected into volume, and there's some that would be physically you couldn't open the book.
Yeah.
There's some
I'm considering backing the G.I. Joe one for sure.
that would be a great thing to have. Now, okay, in the case of Secret Six is one the case where its run was limited enough that it can be consolidated to one big book.
Now,
And
this
there's
seems like a
something
very
cool about that.
opportune marketing connection to any music projects that have like ties to the Secret Six.
Well, yeah, I wonder if those could exist. Oh, wait, I have one. Yes, that was leading me to the point, was one reason the Secret Six is great. Well, one reason, apart from the other things, Secret Six is a great comic, and it was so moving that I wrote a song about it. And that song is by my group 12 Valentines, which is findable, throughout the internet. And anyway, so Cole, if you happen to be the person who wants to get the Secret Six omnibus, so you can read all of it, it's a great comic. If you want to have an added value experience, you can also find fan originated songs that people may have written about, like me. Mine's called Scandal and Bane. It has to do with this scene in issue 10, I think it's called Descent. Anyway, yeah, so the
I mean, a lot of people love to listen to music while they read comics, and that's the perfect soundtrack to the comic you're reading.
that's the whole idea. We want a soundtrack to enhance your experience as you read every single issue of this comic. So that was my way of saying nerd popping, the Secret Six omnibus, and also our song Scandal and Bane, which relates to this very, very touching scene in Gail Simone's excellent comic book and Nicola Scott's excellent comic book about Deadshot and Catman. Also, if you want to be a true cool nerd and know why Catman is even a thing, Secret Six is where you would find that out.
Gail Simone, like, she has a deep, abiding passion for Catman. So
yeah, Catman is just an excellent character. You just got to read it. That's all I can say.
So how can people find you and 12 Valentines on the internet, then, Dominic?
Well, I'm Dominic Ma, Dama, DOMMAH. DOMMAH on the socials, and my group is called 12 Valentines, and you can find us on Bandcamp or 12valentines.net.
I am on Twitter at @TheRealChow, _real_chow, and the Nerds of Color are on all platforms at the Nerds of Color. HardNOCmedia.com is where you'll find the podcast. YouTube.com/the Nerds of Color is where you find the videos. And give us comments, give us ratings, give us reviews, help people find the podcast. If you want to continue to hear me bitch and moan about all of the IP that keeps coming out, or not coming out, as it were, in some cases. But that's Hard NOC Life for this week. Till next time.
I'm glad we ended on a note of love in any form.
Yeah, I hate it because I love it. I think is the lesson here.
It's a never-ending battle.